Are you in the mood for a teen romance? Look no further than the Netflix film JJ+E or Vinterviken. Will you be watching? Two teens are raised in the same city, yet they live light years apart, separated economically, socially, and culturally, until the day they start in the same high school class. So this kind of has a Romeo and Juliet vibe to it, where we have two teens who begin to fall in love, but because of their life circumstances, they're in different stratospheres. We have John-John, who lives in a less than rich area. He has rough friends who do a lot of sketch things, and John-John has been caught up in the trouble. We get the sense that he is a good kid at heart, but he doesn't always make the best decisions. Elisabeth lives in the rich part of the city, and we get to see the difference in just about every aspect. They have this spacious house, a large infinity pool, a housekeeper, and even a vacation home. This dichotomy between John-John and Elisabeth is there to create a perceived conflict. I mean, sure, there is conflict when it comes to how Elisabeth's dad sees John-John, but there are other circumstances also that come into play as to why he feels about John-John the way he does. For being 91 minutes long, there's a lot of emotion that's forced into the story. I think the love story portion of this does work. We watch the two spend more and more time together, learning about each other and forming a bond. They laugh, play, talk, and all the while they're growing closer. And so that aspect works for me. The other part of the story plays out more in the background, with conflict surrounding John-John and his friends. Now, like I said, they're kind of shady and rough, and because of this, there are circumstances that then affect John-John and even his relationship with Elisabeth. The stuff in the background feels a bit underdeveloped for the story. I mean, I get why it's there and I like where it's headed, but I don't think it's fully explored in a way that has some gripping effect on the story. There are even portions to John-John's family background that should be explored to make him a more rich character and to also give him some greater motivations, but unfortunately the story just doesn't take the time to do so. Plus, a lot of that conflict is telegraphed pretty far in advance, so it's not a surprise when it arrives. Now, I don't mind the predictability in the love story portion, but it ends up detracting from the overall enjoyment when it affects the dramatic portion of the story. While we don't get a lot of character development, what we do get comes pretty quickly and easily. John-John is pretty sympathetic, at least when he's not doing dumb stuff to jeopardize his future. I think Elisabeth is also fairly sympathetic as a character. While she could come across as a stuck-up rich kid, especially to John-John, she's actually nice and she gets along well with his friends. So she's not stuck in some social strata, but instead just sees people as people. Now, I enjoyed both of their performances, especially because they both come across as timid when expressing interest in each other. But then we get to see their chemistry really grow. So with the underdeveloped background drama that I mentioned, it also becomes lackluster and then even rushed. Events happen, which again we see coming from way off, but they're just not really intriguing to engage with. John-John's best friend Sluggo is pretty much just a thug, so when we know that he's going to cause or even bring about some sort of trouble eventually, but I just didn't care. Now, if you were to put John-John in danger, then I would be more invested, but as it stands, the interactions we watch with Sluggo, they just don't amount to much. And I'm never concerned for his well-being. I mean, for me, he's a character without consequence. Now, I said the love story portion worked for me, but there was one portion towards the very end of the movie that just felt like it came on too quickly and then resolved itself in a really rushed way. I'm not looking for it to be dragged out, but to have it be like boom, 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 okay, done, that just wasn't satisfying. And then the movie ends. I enjoyed the cinematography in this. There are a lot of soft focus shots and even some that are overlaying two different scenes on top of one another. Now, while this may sound a bit cheesy, I did like the effect, especially because it wasn't used too frequently. They also work in some great low light scenes where the sun is just setting or the moon is like the only thing providing light. So I enjoyed the overall look of the production. I think even the scenery is chosen well. We certainly get the sense of haves and have-nots depending on where we're at in the locale. Now, the movie as a whole is kind of shallow and lacking. If it were just a love story, we'd need more in here to fill out the world. There is a conflict that exists because the dad isn't really sold on John-John, so the story could just be fleshed out and then expanded to craft a really touching romance. The bones are present in this story, they just need more. And the drama portion with John-John's friends and life circumstance need more also, just in order to make us care. So overall, I became engaged in the romantic story between the two leads and enjoyed what I watched, but I feel that it could be so much more developed and crafted into a richer and then more impactful story. The conflict that exists doesn't create anything compelling, and it's made even more ineffectual by the predictability. I wanted to like this more, especially because I enjoyed the leads and the way the film looked. Unfortunately, it just didn't deliver an entire package that made it worth my time. There's sex, maybe very brief nudity, a lot of profanity, and some violence. I give JJ+E 2.5 out of 5 couches. Are there any good romances you've seen lately? I'd love to know what you watched in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.